Hello, world. Welcome to the Conscious Health Podcast. I'm your host, TJ Jensen. I'm an author, health coach, personal trainer, all that good stuff. Today, we're talking about finding yourself with meditation. So, if you're watching this, you're likely a beginner in meditation, or you've dabbled in it and you've started to learn about it, but you want to know more about it and what it can do for you. And I think finding yourself is one way to define something that you begin to discover as you meditate, that the thoughts that you experience and that you have in your mind are actually transient. They come and they go. And specifically, I want to talk about meditation on the breath. Now, meditation on breathing is my favorite thing to meditate on because it is something that's very just abstract and it's hard to judge the breath, right? Like the most you could do as far as judging it is, it's too heavy, it's too light, I'm breathing too fast, I'm breathing too slow, whatever it is. But there's not a lot of things you can do with the breath. And I know from years of practice of just focusing on the breath, finding times to be still, it can be very beneficial not only for depression, anxiety, even PTSD of sorts, but it can be helpful for finding that inner stillness that is within each of us. And I know that if each of us can find time to be still, to focus on the breath, we will find that inner stillness with enough practice and with enough patience. And so, like I said before, as you meditate, you start to realize that thoughts are transient. They come and they go. And in this video, I won't be telling you what you are or who you are because I'm facilitating the experience for you to find out for yourself. And so meditation is a way that we can start to discover and to answer that question for ourselves, because no one can tell you who you are or what you are, because it's beyond definition, because what you are has been around forever, and it's been around long before we came up with the English language to be able to define things, define what we are. So it's not wrong or a bad thing to define ourselves with thoughts. It's actually very helpful and it's very healthy to have a human ego, to have a personality. But I think the deeper focus here in the lesson to learn is that we are more than just our thoughts. Because as we know that thoughts can imprison us, if we can choose to imprison ourselves with our thoughts because we are the creator of our lives, in the sense that we choose how we respond to life and how we want to perceive it. And so in that sense, we are the ones who choose to be the creators or the captives of our own lives via our perspectives and the thoughts that we choose to put our energy towards or attention towards. So to dive deeper into the topic of meditating, specifically on the breath, I want to share some quotes, even some Bible scriptures, because of course the Bible is one of the most commonly read and known books in America, and so hopefully that reference will be helpful for those of you watching or listening to this. So I'm going to start a quote from Ram Dass, one of my favorite speakers who was around a lot in the 60s and 70s. One quote on meditation that he says is, "Meditation means to be constantly extricating yourself from the clinging of mind. By letting go of even the thought I and me, what is left? There's nowhere to stand and no one to stand there. No separation anywhere. Pure awareness. Neither this nor that. Just clarity and being." So maybe you've experienced this already, where you've started to realize that who you are can be defined by any thought that you choose, and it's up to you to choose which thoughts you want to entertain. And you realize the cause and effect of this, right? If you want to tell yourself you're ugly, you're lazy, can't do this, can't do that, then of course you start feeling depressed. If you tell yourself, I can do this, I can do that, I'm capable of this, I'm capable of that, then of course you start feeling empowered, you start to feel good. And thankfully the practice of meditation help us to start to realize how thoughts impact us, and that the thoughts that we choose, especially the ones that we're not even conscious of yet, are very impactful in our lives. And it's our duty to dive deep with meditation, to be able to find out who we are, so we realize that we are the creator. We're the creator and the created, and that we are the ones who can connect with our higher power, call it what you may, God, the universe, the divine. It's our responsibility to connect to that. So I said before that it is healthy to be able to define ourselves with thoughts, and we'll do that until the day we die, until we're not incarnated in a human body, in a human brain. But until then, it's healthy to define ourselves, and it's very useful in a lot of human settings and social settings. But when we're deep in meditation, we start to have the realization that because thoughts are transient, they come and they go, then of course that leaves us questioning, well, who are we? If my name is TJ, but that is up for change at any time that I want to change it, or that I can define myself as strong or weak, but of course that's going to change as I age. It's going to change depending on how often I go to the gym. And so just by every way that I define myself, even defining myself as I or me, we start to question, well, what is me? What is I? And we come up with all these different thoughts. Well, I am tall, I'm this, I'm that. But of course, again, those things are open for change. So if we are only for a short setting something that changes, then what is the deeper thing that is always there, that has been there from, we can say, the beginning, and all the way towards the end, if we want to call it that, if we believe in even a beginning and an end. I know for me personally, I believe in eternal life, and I believe that's already here and right now. And we are a part of that eternal nature. And again, these are more definitions to something that is, it can't be nameable and it can't be describable, but it can be experienced. And the goal of this podcast or video is for you to be able to start to experience that. And so ponder on the question, who am I? How can I find out who I am? In order to do this, we have to focus on what is not changing, what is eternal, what is always there if we're still enough to listen, to have ears to hear and have eyes to see. So on that note, I'm going to share some more I'm going to share some Bible verses to help us to understand this more, to use more analogies, to help us understand the question that we're getting at with this video or podcast. So Psalms chapter 46 verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And of course, we start to experience this as we sit in peace and quiet. And peace and quiet doesn't necessarily have to mean that we will always have an environment that is actually quiet and without noise, because of course we know that in our busy lives that's very hard to do, especially in our society. But we know that as we meditate, we sit down, we can focus on just focusing on breathing. Then there's that inner stillness that's behind everything, behind all the noises, behind all distractions. The next one I have here is John chapter 1 verse 1. "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." I shared this one because I shared earlier that thoughts are very powerful. Thoughts are made up of images, maybe mental videos, or even words, right? And so if you're listening to this, you most likely speak English, and so a lot of your thoughts are made up of the English language. So in the beginning was the Word. Since we're born, we start to learn language, we start to learn English, we start to form and conceptualize the world through the English language. And when we spell out a word, we are casting spells in a sense, right? If I define myself in a positive way, I'll have positive effects. If I define myself in my life in a negative way, I'll have negative effects. So God has gifted us with the power to be able to spell out our lives with words. So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So like I said earlier, we're the created and the creator simultaneously. And so we are co-creating with God. We are using our God-given gift to spell out not only our lives, but other people's lives, right? So when we meditate, we have this good example of being still, peaceful people that can have a big impact on other people's lives who are going through a lot of chaos. We're able to spell out their lives, help them see their lives in a better perspective. So this video isn't just about finding out who we are, but it's also realizing who we are, realizing who everyone else is, and helping them to realize that themselves. So this is a chain reaction that I'm helping start here with this podcast today. And the last Bible verse I have here is Job chapter 27, verse 3. "All the while my breath is in me, and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils." And so I know when I like to meditate on the breath, I like to meditate on the breath of my nose. For me, that's just been easier to focus on than my mouth. I also prefer nose breathing. And I actually have multiple videos on breathing and why nose breathing is healthy. But anyway, I know that meditating on the breath is very helpful, and it's very symbolic because, of course, without breathing, we would not be here. And I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So the breath is very important. And we are gifted by the Creator to not only be able to breathe, but to live and to feel the life going in and out of us. And I know that as we find time to meditate, it can be very, very beneficial for us and the rest of the world to be able to help everyone see God within us and to be able to find the heaven that's always been here. Speaking of, I have a book. It's called Stop Waiting for Heaven. You can see it here. You can buy it on Amazon. I'll have a link in the description below. And I'm actually going to share another Ram Dass quote at the very end of this book to give us yet another perspective on meditation and finding what we may call God, universe, the divine, heaven, finding it within us. So this is towards the end of my book. It's like having an imaginary playmate. Here he's speaking about and relating to God. You really invest in an imaginary playmate. The bizarre thing that happens at the end is you find out the imaginary playmate was real and you were imaginary. And so we're getting back to that idea that thoughts are transient, and when we define ourselves with thoughts, it's not a bad thing, but we're defining ourselves with something that comes and it goes. And so, like many of you, we start out imagining God. And this is a healthy part of relationship with God. We imagine him, we make him out of our own image at first at times. But then as we go on through this journey, we find times to meditate. We realize that it's ourselves that's actually imaginary. If we define ourselves with thoughts very heavily, then of course we're not only projecting what we are onto ourselves and others, but we're also limiting ourselves with only a thought. And what the creative essence of God, of the universe, is beyond thought, because it was here before thought was ever created, before the word was created, before words could start to spell our lives. And we start to realize on this path that us to find ourselves was actually the imaginary playmate that we were creating, and that God has always been here, and he is not limited to the image that we create of him, but he has created us in his image. And so hopefully these analogies are helpful in helping you to understand what I'm talking about, even though, of course, I'm talking about something that is indescribable. But hopefully this podcast has been something that facilitates an experience for you. And of course, the invitation is to find time, focus on the breath. Every time a thought comes up, just go back to the breath. You'll start to get that spacious awareness, feeling deep within and without. It's everywhere. It's something each of us can find at any time. So if you guys like this video, this podcast, subscribe, follow on whatever platform you're hearing this on. And if you want to learn more, you're definitely free to go ahead and buy my book. So thank you. We'll see you. Have a good one.